Hello, this is Ian, and welcome to another video. Today we're doing another Minecraft. We are doing another story. We are going to be starting something new today. It's still fanfiction, as you can clearly see on the screen. The title of this video is the Hermit Rescue. It's a lovely world in Hermitcraft Fanfiction, and it's by yours truly. I do have to note this important note. Yeah. The story is purely fiction, and it's not canon to either Lovely World or the Hermitcraft as a whole. This is separate from Season Clockwork, and may have similar plots to some stories, but the idea is completely fabricated, and some of the characters have not met one another. Also, be cautious about Lovely World spoilers, as they do take place. The story takes place after I won. Like, there is immediate spoilers in Chapter 1. Part 1. So, yeah, if you haven't watched that, please do. Please do. Tragic Day is also another one you might want to watch. Because that also explains some things. Yeah. Tragic Day and I 1 are probably important right now for this story. Yeah. It's just something. I can't make you read it if you don't want to read it. Of course, I'm telling you to watch it on somebody else's channel, but they do kind of deserve the love. Let's get into it. Chapter 1, or Part 1, however I'm going to say it. Honestly, it doesn't matter. The view outside the museum was very quiet and still, the night sky above bringing little light to the already torchlit area. There were only a few zombies and skeletons to be seen, scattered across the landscape as I watched the balcony, watching Stampy and one of his dogs, Barnaby, prepare for bed. I couldn't be sure what the orange and white cat had been up to today, but that didn't matter. I had a job to do, but it was a risky one. I took a deep breath as I glanced over towards the farm, knowing below it was my target. I could just about see the trap Stampy had made for his target, knowing that he probably was bobbing up and down it right now. The place was unusually quiet, the love garden seeming to glow strangely in a way I never noticed before. And again, I don't pay attention much to things that don't concern me, or the mission. Speaking of which, I still had one last thing to do tonight before bringing back my report to my boss. Who's that, you may ask? Why, of course, Beautash. I'm one of the spies that work for her and his target, bringing back any information that might come our way. My job here is a little special, though. Viva has been secretly working on some sort of portal to another world in the attempt to recruit more people, and my task is to check to see if anything happens. It's not easy, since there are other people out there that quite enjoy trying to foil my plan. People who are head over heels over Stampy, I believe, do no wrong. I can assure you, though, he's no better than the rest of us. I stepped away from my hiding spot behind a tree, once I was fairly sure no one was nearby, watching me. I have spent the last couple of weeks checking these portals, and for the most part I've been able to keep them secret. I plan to keep it that way for as long as I could. I glanced back at the balcony to see that Stampy and Barnaby had finally fallen asleep. They'd be up and ready to go the next morning with whatever they were up to. It wasn't my place to know that. My job was fairly simple. Hey, wait up! A voice called from behind me, and I nearly jumped out of my skin, turning to see someone I hadn't seen run up to me. They didn't look to me like one of the Lovely World town folks that I knew lived around here, or the spies from both sides either. He seemed a bit ordinary, wearing blue jeans with a black shirt that had a yellow eye inscribed on its chest, his dark brown eyes looking somewhat relieved to see me. What are you doing here? I demanded a little too harshly than I meant to. A long story. I'm honestly not sure, the man admitted as he got up to me. I was working on a project back at home when I found this strange portal in another room. You could say I got a little curious. I groaned, putting my hand over my face, putting the pieces together. Still, I was hopeful. If people were that stupid to wander through a random portal like that, then that would mean we could potentially get more people to help with Beefin's plan. You really should know walking through random portals is incredibly dangerous, I pointed out blandly. You're lucky you came across me when you did. I guess so. The man nodded his head slowly. Is it possible for me to get home, though? I started before stopping myself as I thought about this carefully. I knew of many portals for this man to return home from, but I wasn't sure if he should know that. His target surely didn't want him to. After all, he needed these people to help him in his plan to free this world from Stampy's tyranny. How about I take you back to where I'm staying, and we can talk about it there? Sound fair? Impulse? The man said hesitantly. The name's Impulse. Yeah, I replied matter-of-factly, as Impulse held out a hand. In a friendly gesture, as I'd assumed, as I gradually took it, and we shook on it. The man had no idea what he was getting himself into. After a long, awkward silence, we began to walk down the path from the museum towards the farm, where I knew the doghouse would be. I explained to Impulse that I needed to check on a little thing in there first, and would only be a minute, when I began to hear voices ahead, as Impulse pulled me around the corner, as we both took in the scene before us. Standing in front of the water column trap was Vividash, a young woman with red and gold robes, with dark hair and dark eyes. Most of her dark brown hair was covered by a red hat, with a yellow flower on its center. Her eyes were looking up at the top of the pillar, to the man trapped inside. How's the plan going, Viva? The mid-target's voice rumbled a bit tiredly. He'd probably spent under a week in that trap, and whenever I came to visit, he wouldn't stop complaining about how uncomfortable it was. It seems to be going well. I just need to see if the portals are working, Viva said brightly. I'm sure one of our spies will gladly let us know. Good, the man hit the target me softly. I can imagine he was probably stroking his graying mustache in pleasure. How exactly are we going to convince these people into helping us? I have an idea, dear. Don't worry, Viva assured him calmly. They obviously would want to come home afterwards, wouldn't they? Clicked back an Impulse, who was staring right at me as he slowly shook his head. I had a feeling I knew what was on his mind. You shouldn't stay here for too long, Viva, the man said coldly. One of the spies might see you. Oh, I don't think they will, she said calmly, as she pulled out a splash potion and splashed herself, her disembodied voice adding, I'll see you soon, dear. Likewise, his target agreed plainly. As I heard footsteps fading away. Silence returned once more as I looked back over to Impulse, gestured towards one of the two entrances of the doghouse, the one hidden target couldn't see. The man followed me reluctantly as we climbed the stairs and went inside. I could hear a couple of the dogs growling at me, but I ignored them. I wasn't planning on touching them tonight anyway. What's going on? Impulse insisted in a hushed whisper. I hesitated for a moment before replying. It's nothing too serious. You just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. The portal appeared in my house. I am pretty sure it was at least somewhat intentional. Impulse stated skeptically. What are those two planning? They want to overthrow the tyranny here. Stampy, I said, matter-of-factly. They thought it'd be a good idea to lure some people here to help them, with the promise of bringing them back home afterward. Would they? Impulse asked slowly. I swallowed, looking away from the man, and I shoveled my feet on the cold snow beneath me. Eventually, yes. There was a long moment of silence as I continued looking at the floor, unsure of what to do in the situation. When I heard footsteps right outside the doghouse, panic erupted inside me. What was that? Impulse asked nervously. I didn't need to guess what he was thinking. He was probably worried Eva had come back to look for him. I couldn't blame him. He was in a world he didn't recognize, people he didn't know. The wall over there is fake, just behind the vending machine, I whispered. There's also a portal there as well, but it will close after you go through. It's your choice whether or not to use it. You use it. Thank you. Impulse nodded gratefully as I watched him go over to the wall and take out an axe, break it down. Some of the dogs were watching him with uncertainty, though most were staring at me with distrust. Impulse covered back up the hole and disappeared just as I heard footsteps walking into the doghouse. Sierra, what did I tell you about sneaking into the doghouse? a voice demanded from behind me as I whirled around. Chris, just know what it looks like, I insisted quickly as Stampy's spy approached me, some of the dogs wagging their tails as he passed them. Are you trying to steal Stampy's dogs again? Chris asked warily, his eyes narrowing as he looked down at me. Looked at his face at me, but lifted my chin higher and confidently. Not today, I said matter-of-factly. Just official business for Vitash. The usual? Chris let out a sigh and shook his head slowly. Somehow, knowing you, I highly doubt that. I'm being honest this time, I said charmingly. I tilted my head as I looked down at the dogs. If I wanted to steal the dogs, I would have done it before you came here. Feel free to count them. They're all here, including Fluffy. Right, Chris replied with a frown. So I heard from one of my fellow spies you were planning to steal one of them tonight. You must have heard wrong, I said with a cheerful smile as I knelt down, gave one of the nearby dogs, Sherbert, a gentle pat on the head. The dog was wary, but didn't bite at me. I could sense that I was telling the truth. I've done what I needed to do today. I should be heading back to the castle now. What exactly were you doing? Chris questioned. That's none of your business, I said matter-of-factly, as I tossed my red hair behind me as I walked out the only door he wasn't blocking, as he ordered for me to stop. I ignored him as I ran down the steps, laughing as I passed his darkest trap. You won't get away with this forever, Chris shouted at me as I disappeared around the corner. I laughed again. Not exactly what I'm getting away with right now, other than the fact that I just helped someone get home. Thought came to my mind as a sick feeling fluttered in my stomach as I slowed from a jog to a walk. As I looked back, should I make sure he was gone? Or what if something had gone wrong? Why did I even care? Something about the man now seemed familiar, but I couldn't be so sure how or why. I had to go back to make sure he wasn't there alone with Chris. There was no telling what conclusions that Stampy spy would come to. The last thing I wanted was an innocent getting hurt, especially someone who seemed to know who I was. I sighed as I turned back and ran for the doghouse again, stopping just in front of Stampy's hot-buns as its target and I made contact. He went back to his patrol. It's not here if that's what you're worried about. The target confirmed. Good, it said with a nod. Didn't want him foiling my mission again. Could help it. I can keep a lookout if you must. Its target sighed as he looked up at the sky. The only way he really could roll his eyes, due to his lack of them. His sickly green, bony skin seemed a bit darker, probably due to all the water and sand constantly going all over him. It couldn't be a comfortable feeling. It should be fine, sir, I said confidently, knowing very well it would be fine. Chris wouldn't suspect me to double back so quickly, don't we? I walked back into the doghouse as I looked around all the dogs, grabbing a sign and putting it on the wall, and scribing a question on it. More to taunt Chris or anyone else who came over here the next morning as I stepped back and chuckled. Once I was satisfied, I went over to the vending machine and broke my way through behind the wall. Impulse, are you still here? At first, I didn't see anything, but suddenly, I saw movement in the corner as a figure appeared. Sure enough, it was Impulse. I could still see the portal in the room, though. Couldn't see the portal in the room, though. You came back for me? He asked quizzically. I wanted to make sure you were okay, I said quickly. Stampy spies aren't necessarily forgiving if they catch you. What would they do if they did? Impulse asked. Put you in the police cell in the police station and interrogate you, basically, said as I rolled my eyes. Gotcha. Not a fun bunch to be around, Impulse said softly. Oh, they can be fun. You just need to know how to push their buttons the right way. I mused with a chuckle. The portal didn't work, I assume. Turned off just as you left, Impulse admitted sourly. I was waiting to see if you'd come back. Why? I asked. Well, I just wanted to know if you remembered me, that's all. Impulse said quietly. Maybe I would at a different time, I shrugged. We should get you home. Why are you helping me? You're working for the bad guys, Impulse said quickly. That's what Chris would like you to think. I don't think you deserve to be trapped here for an indefinite amount of time. No one deserves that, Impulse said quietly. Quickly, as we headed out of the doghouse. He hesitated for a moment, gesturing for him to remain quiet as we walked out of the doghouse and snuck around his target, who had fallen asleep in the trap. I was surprised it was sitting enough to sleep in, unless he was just exhausted. I got an impulse around the world quietly, checking various portals that I knew the whereabouts for, as well as sneaking around some of Stampy's spies who had yet to go to bed. They were probably keeping an eye out for people like me. Didn't want to get impulse wrapped into this mess, though. Finally, we found a portal that hadn't been closed down. As we headed over to it, and both of us hesitate for a moment. So, this is goodbye? Impulse asked, sounding a little sad. I wasn't sure why, though. What a bummer did he recognize? Why was he so trusting of me? He shouldn't be. I surely hope so, I pointed out. You need to get home, so you can do what you need to do. Would you be mad if I warned the other hermits about this? Impulse asked. That's what your group is called? I asked skeptically. Hermit nodded as he sighed, answering his question. I can't stop you from doing that. It might be better if you do. I will then. Thanks for the help, Impulse said cheerfully as he disappeared through the portal. I stood there in silence for a moment as the portal closed behind him, knowing deep down that Viva's plan was getting closer and closer to becoming a reality. Unfortunately, this is going to be it for this episode, but the next one, well, this will be an unlisted series, so it will be ready whenever. Whenever I can get it. Yeah, basically, soon. It might already be out by the time you're seeing this. I may have them all out right now, for all you know. Not all public. But this is originally meant to be unlisted until I eventually make it public at some point. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in part 2. Goodbye.